eyes were opened up into eternity. And I saw this, in a split second, I saw this whole host of angels. And I knew what they were thinking. I could feel what they were feeling. And I knew what they were created for, what their destiny was. There were some that were for healing, some were for warring, some for deliverance, some for ministry. And their destinies were contingent upon my wife's worship. They couldn't be released into the earth until she worshiped the Lord. And it was like they were screaming with everything inside of them, going, would you just worship the Lord?
I mean, I had been a believer my whole life, but I had not been pursuing like Christian music. In fact, I'm going to be real honest, like my heart was kind of like, that's for people who can't make it in the real world. That was my attitude. So real ugly. But the Lord did a big work in me. And when I was in Israel, he was like, Michael had a ton of favor there and I didn't. And so it was one of those things where I felt like the Lord said, would you be willing to stay here? And I've been like, Lord, I've been in the industry for the last 10 years, like doing this. And I thought this was what you wanted me to do. I don't understand why you would want me to lay it down. And so I think I cried about every day for 6 weeks, but I finally was like, okay, God, if you're asking me to do this, I'm going to lay it down. And it was in this moment that I felt like the Lord came to me and he was like, you're called to be a worshiper. And at that moment, everything shifted for me. Like all of a sudden it was like the King of Kings was asking me to come and sing for him, which means like, how could that, like singing in front of millions of people is not impressive when you've got the King of Kings who created it all. And I can be in my closet doing that. And it's just as powerful. And so at that moment, I was like, Lord, I want to be a worshiper. I don't want to be a performer. What's it look like to worship you? And he's just taken us on this incredible last 15 years of our marriage journey on what does it look like to worship? He had an encounter regarding it as well. And what's that look like? And it's been just this crazy, the Lord has just brought us on this crazy, I don't know, journey on what all that looks like. But
we're against in the center of all these like worship movements,
yeah,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, well, it's extremely interesting. And I think it's very obvious that this is God. Let's talk for a second. I know that when we worship, it literally changes the atmosphere. It can change so much in our lives and our direction and for our families and whatnot. What do you see happens when you worship?
Well, that's actually our testimony that we share when we go and teach on worship. And when we were in Israel, I had prayed that prayer, Lord, to worship you and not just to perform for you. And so this girl, we got in a little small group. I don't know if you want to tell it.
Yeah, we got a small group, and it was our turn to pray for Meredith. And she's like, I'm just struggling with, I don't want to perform before God. I want to worship. What does that look like? And this girl, we all lay hands on Meredith, and this girl goes, Lord, I pray that you show Meredith what happens in the spiritual realm when she worships you. And she goes, and show her right now.
Wow.
And it offended me. I was like, you can't tell God what to do. I was like a brand new believer. And I guess because we're one, he didn't show her, he showed me. And I made it sound like I got hit in the gut. I went, ah! And I fell to the ground weeping uncontrollably because I got short circuited. And I was literally like 20 minutes just like, and Meredith's
I've never seen him like that before, and I've never seen him like that since. Like it was such a powerful encounter.
She's looking over me, and my brother's looking over me. The other girl's looking over me. They're like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's like, it's good, but I can't talk. And this was different than like a see or vision kind of a thing. This was like my spiritual eyes were opened up into eternity. And I saw this, in a split second, I saw this whole host of angels. And I knew what they were thinking. I could feel what they were feeling. And I knew what they were created for, what their destiny was. There were some that were for healing, some were for warring, some for deliverance, some for ministry. And their destinies were contingent upon my wife's worship. They couldn't be released into the earth until she worshiped the Lord. And it was like they were screaming with everything inside of them, going, would you just worship the Lord? Because just imagine that you're created for this one thing. It's like you burn for it, but someone in another room has the key for you to do what you're created to do, and they can't see you or hear you. And so it's like they were just screaming for it. And it freaked me out. I mean, I didn't talk about it to anybody but her for about a year because I was like, is this even biblical what I'm seeing? I had no context for this,
right.
And so we'd be like in the kitchen and she's cooking and I'd look at it and I'd start crying and be like, you just got to sing. I feel like heaven's burden.
Right now.
Wow, that's crazy powerful. Okay, and so then you guys joined with the others in pioneering Upper Room. What did that look like?
We felt called to come back to Dallas to run with Michael and Larissa Miller, who started the Upper Room. It was about 100 people in a room at the time. And they put us in charge of worship, and I was one of the first worship leaders per se there, but I just understood
Which
worship.
didn't make sense to most people, because they're like, why would you put somebody in charge that doesn't play an instrument and doesn't sing? But we feel like it was very strategic on the Lord's part, because there was no agenda for him other than to allow worship to come forth and empower other people who are called to do it. So it just kind of created this celebration around worship and in celebrating each other and the giftings that the Lord had in people.
And one of the things that we started seeing early on, where the Bible says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And there was like no thank you songs that we could enter into with the Lord with. And then all the praise songs we found at that time were from back in revival days. And so we were like, that's interesting that they understood something about the power of praise during revival times. And so she started these songwriting deals and just got everybody started to writing songs, and it just birthed something really powerful.
Hey guys, Roxanne Grace here. Thank you guys so much for watching Dream's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single conversation or new music from Dream. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the like and notification buttons and share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. Oh, and don't forget, you can subscribe and listen to the conversation anywhere podcasts are available. Thanks for watching.